The popularity of Oratones over the last decades makes one to wonder what stuff they were made of. This guest came to the show with these Edward Curtis Oratones that were acquired from her grandmother. Edward Sheriff Curtis was an American photographer and ethnologist, whose work focused on the American West and on Native American people. As someone that was born during the twilight of the American West era, Edward Curtis took it upon himself to document their culture with these Oratones. With the help of some American aristocrats, Edward Curtis began producing his gold tone photographs, also known as Oratones, in 1916.
The Oratone is a special photographic technique. The image is a positive image on glass. The back of the glass plate has an emulsion, banana oil, and gold-colored pigment.
According to the appraiser, the first of these items, called the Vanishing Race, which was done in 1904, served as visual metaphor of the Diné people on horseback fading away. The second image, photographed in 1910, showcased Flathead Lake in northern Montana, and the Native American pictured is from the Kootenai tribe. While the third image, photographed in 1904 at the Old Well of Acoma, documents the indigenous Americans during the early decades of the 1900s. The key factor that makes these images unique is the exceptional craftsmanship in their frame designs.
Of all the different types of photographic images that Curtis created, and he worked in virtually every photographic technique, these are the most desirable.
However, the Vanishing Race image, with its exceptional detail and pristine condition, will be valued at
A pre-sale estimate would be in the $5,000 to $7,500 range.
Oh my.
The Old Well of Acoma image will be priced at
$4,000 to $6,000 range.
My goodness.
while the Rush Gatherer piece, despite some conditional issues on the surface and the frame, is estimated to be worth
I would estimate at $6,000 to $9,000.
My goodness.
What we have here are 1960 Ansel Adams modern prints that can be described as windows into nature's future. These Ansel Adams prints were acquired by this guest for just $1.65, which can be described as the steal of the century. Ansel Easton Adams was an American landscape photographer and environmentalist known for his black and white images of the American West. Over the last century, these types of Ansel Adams prints have been shrouded in controversy, based on their originality, which is also the case of these three prints brought on the show.
I know you're concerned as to whether Ansel Adams actually made these prints, and I believe he did make them.
However, the originality of this print was further proven by the signature on the lower right corner of one of the prints. Another thing that distinguishes these prints was the fact that Ansel Adams reprinted most of his work in another dimension, which can be seen on this 11 inches Merced Rivers image. While the same instances can also be said of this 11 by 14 inches Vernal Fall. In the later years of Ansel Adams, he delegated all his work to Alan Ross, who revolutionized his way of printing into this version. Ross's revolution of Ansel's body also ushered in an era of change in how these prints are approved for originality.
Ansel wouldn't sign his name, he would initial the prints.
With the authenticity ascertained, these three Ansel Adams prints would be valued at
At auction, this group of photographs is worth $15,000 to $25,000
For all three of them.
for the three together.
Taking you back to the 19th century with these antebellum cased images. This guest acquired these images from her aunt, who identified her as the best person to keep them intact. According to the appraiser, antebellum pieces like these are not ordinary antebellums. Rather, they consist of photographs of people from the Vicksburg area.
That area actually from Claiborne County, which is just south of Vicksburg. And these people lived on a plantation called Buckhorn Plantation.
The people of Vicksburg, Mississippi include the Natchez Native Americans, civilians who lived through the siege of Vicksburg, and people who helped rebuild the city after the war. These photographs were taken in the 1850s, and not every one of them are daguerreotypes, as against the inaccurate assumptions of the guest. Daguerreotypes are the first successful form of photography, with some sort of shiny mirror-like surface as seen with this image. Also of note is this ambrotype within the image, a positive image on glass created from an underexposed collodion negative against a dark background. Along the antebellum cased images is this ambrotype image of a boy with a badly corroded format. Another picture that caught the eyes is this image of a keeper among the Vicksburg community.
That his name was Stephen Armstrong and that he was the cook and he was much loved. So it was kept among the family photographs and daguerreotypes.
Much to the surprise of the appraiser, it's rare to find an antebellum with the name and details of the slave attached to it.
But it's unusual to see a slave holding a book when we know that in most states it was illegal to teach slaves to read.
However, this daguerreotype of the African-American slave, with the history behind it, is estimated to be worth
for maybe as much as $5,000.
Oh my heavens.
While the other 3 photographs are collectively valued at
Collectively, the 3 photographs there may be worth $200 or $300.
Having a James Mason collection is like owning a treasure that connects you to Virginia's rich history and the legacy of a remarkable individual. The guest, being the great-great-great-grandson of James Mason, is fortunate to own such a collection with a deep history of the illustrious politician.
And during the Civil War, Jefferson Davis had appointed him as a commissioner to England to search for support from England.
James Murray Mason was an American lawyer and politician who became a Confederate diplomat. He served as senator from Virginia, having previously represented Frederick County, Virginia in the Virginia House of Delegates. His pivotal role during the Confederate struggle against the Union shot him to limelight and etched his name in the hearts of many Americans. These remarkable pieces, most especially the box with the CSA inscription on it, tells the tales of his bravery and exploits during the struggle. Also among the items is this signed image of James Mason, known as a carte de visite.
But a carte de visite was a type of photograph that became popular right at the outbreak of the Civil War.
This book, titled The Constitution, also holds a good stand among the collection because it was given to him when he took his seat among the Congress in 1857. However, the most premium piece among this collection is this snuff box with a well-detailed carving, a testament of 19th century excellence. Talking about the value, this sterling snuff box with the inscription is estimated to be worth.
That is probably worth between $10,000 and $15,000.
This signed photograph is valued at
Carte de visite photograph is worth maybe $100.
The Book of Constitution, although in very terrible shape, is worth
a few $100s.
While the CSA inscribed liquid cabinet is set at
Is worth a couple $1,000s.
Whether you're a history buff, a collector, or simply someone who appreciates the mystique of the American West, owning photographs of Buffalo Bill can be a truly special experience. This guest was fortunate enough to own multiple special photographs of Buffalo Bill that she inherited from her grandmother. William Frederick Cody, known as Buffalo Bill, was an American soldier, bison hunter, and showman. Bill was one of the most famous and well-known figures of the American Old West. He started his legend at the young age of 23. Shortly thereafter, he started performing in shows that displayed cowboy themes and episodes from the frontier and Indian Wars.
He traveled through Europe and played before the European royalty by the dozen. He's a great popular hero of America's late 19th century.
However, there are many photographs of Buffalo Bill that were taken, but these sets stand out most especially this one that shows him in frontier uniform. Another one among these sets of photographs is this one that was taken in Wyoming towards the end of his career. The most eye-catching one is this signed photograph of Bill that showcases him as a businessman. In terms of value, this autographed Buffalo Bill photograph is worth around
The autographed photograph alone is probably worth between $1,500 and $2,000.
while this photograph of Bill in frontier uniform is estimated to be around.
This photograph is probably $300 to $400 or maybe $500.
And also this photograph of him on horseback is valued at.
This is a lesser valued photograph, maybe a couple $100.
Collectively, these Buffalo Bill photographs were valued at
$2,000 to $2,500.
Wow.
Are you surprised?
I'm surprised. I always had these and I love them and I would never part with them because they're my heritage, but I had no idea they were worth that much money.
Imagine holding a piece of history in your hands. This collection of Civil War era photographs brings the past to life in a deeply personal way. Like a masterfully curated exhibition, these photographs offer a glimpse into the treasure trove of the guest's collection, which boasts over 30 remarkable pieces. The story of these photographs begins with a family legacy, one that the guest has carried with him since childhood. Behind the lens of these extraordinary photographs stands a giant in the world of photography, Andrew J. Russell. Andrew J. Russell was a towering figure in photography who emerged during the American Civil War, capturing the brutal beauty of war and the transformative power of the American West. As a photographer for the Union Pacific Railroad, Russell traveled across the continent, documenting the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad and bearing witness to the triumphs and tragedies of the American West. From majestic landscapes to grueling labor and the displacement of Native American tribes. With the intention of safeguarding their condition, the guest had the photographs professionally dismounted from their original album pages.
I just thought they'd get ruined the way they were glued and mounted onto these cardboard pages. So I had a conservator take them off.
According to the appraiser, the photographs are printed on album paper, a detail that provides valuable insight into their age.
So I had a conservator take them off, and it was costly, but it preserved them.
The paper helps us date these photographs.
This photograph depicts City Point, a strategic logistics hub that served as the primary supply depot for the East Coast. In this remarkable image, the camp at City Point, Virginia comes alive, revealing the camaraderie and resilience of the soldiers stationed there. The final piece in the collection is this photograph, which originates from the Virginia Theatre. The appraiser's final assessment concludes that the entire collection, comprising more than 30 photographs, including these 4 on display, would be valued at approximately.
I would think that $15,000 would be a decent price for the group.
Wow. Well, I'm very surprised.
With its dreamy light and nostalgic charm, this photograph is a love letter to the art of vintage landscape photography, inviting us to revel in its timeless splendor. While searching the attic of his house, the guest made an unexpected discovery, uncovering this truly remarkable photograph. This incredible picture was taken by none other than Carleton Watkins, a true photography legend. Carleton Watkins was a visionary photographer who captured the untamed beauty of the American West. Born in 1829, Watkins was a self-taught photographer who rose to prominence in the 1860s with his breathtaking landscapes of Yosemite National Park. Unveiling a piece of San Francisco's history, the caption and appraiser collectively identify this photograph as Golden State Harbor. With infectious enthusiasm, the appraiser reveals the photograph's most striking feature, an unparalleled level of detail.
In the rear of the picture, we can see a cemetery. In terms of the size of the photograph, it's very big.
A testament to the photographic innovations of the 19th century, this image is preserved as an album print, a technique that defined an era. Beneath its captivating surface, the appraiser uncovered a hidden defect, a flaw that would dramatically impact the image's worth.
Possibly they were trying to put it in a picture frame, and so they clipped or trimmed about 3 inches from the top of it.
Unlike the other damage, these small tears are easy to repair and don't really impact the photo's worth. In a world where condition is king, the damage to this photograph is a cruel fate, stripping it of its former glory and reducing its value.
Had this picture not been cut, it would be a $20,000 to $30,000 photograph.
Like a rare gem, this photograph's value shines through, even with its imperfections, with an estimated auction value of.
I would say a conservative estimate at auction would be $4,000 to $6,000. Thank you very much for bringing it in.
This album of Carte de Visite is a rare glimpse into the lives of 19th century Americans, a true historical treasure. The album contains a stunning collection of portrait photographs, each one revealing the unique character and story of a Native American individual. Sometimes the most remarkable discoveries come from unexpected places, like the guest's inheritance of this album.
I received this album from a family friend of ours. I inherited it. I was just very fascinated with it.
Prominently displayed on the album's front page is its title, immediately capturing viewers' attention.
Titles the album and gives us the name of the missionary who was active in the Indian territories.
The appraiser notes a significant connection between this album and a pivotal yet tragic event in Minnesota's history.
That resulted in a series of Indian wars that did not end until the Battle of Wounded Knee in 1890.
The Battle of Wounded Knee, fought on December 29, 1890, was a devastating culmination of the U.S. government's brutal suppression of the Native American ghost dance movement, resulting in the massacre of over 150 Lakota Sioux men, women, and children. A visual journey through the history of Native American leadership unfolds within the pages of this album, featuring portraits of legendary figures from the late 19th century.
Little Crow, who was the Sioux leader, decided not to negotiate with Sibley, but to engage in a series of wars.
Credit for these outstanding photographs is attributed to J.E. Whitney, a notable photographer of the time. These photographs are further enriched by the inclusion of textual annotations, which identify the individuals depicted and offer insights into their lives. Taking into account the quantity and rarity of the photographs, as well as their format as album and carte de visite, the auction estimate for this album is:
The album would bring, in an auction environment, between $15,000 and $20,000.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding you.
Imagine a time when photography was still a marvel, an art form so new that each portrait was a singular, cherished possession. The daguerreotype was an early photographic process invented by Louis Daguerre in the 1830s and introduced to the public in 1839. Prior to its development, Louis Daguerre, a French scientist, artist, and photographer, partnered with Nicéphore Niepce, an inventor who had produced the world's first heliograph in 1822 and the oldest surviving camera photograph in 1826 or 1827. This coalition brought about the first commercially successful photographic method, the daguerreotype, which marked a significant milestone in the history of photography. This particular piece features a portrait of a man seated before a clavichord, a musical instrument widely used during the Renaissance, Baroque, and Classical periods. Enhancing its historical value, the daguerreotype remains in its original frame. At auction, this early example of photography would undoubtedly command a considerable price.
I'd put a $2,000 to $3,000 estimate on it.
Kidding.
Nope. Are you happy?
Yes. Very, very shocked.
At first glance, this photograph commands attention. Its composition, lighting, and subject matter draw the eye into a world meticulously framed by Margaret Bourke White. Margaret was an American photographer and documentary photojournalist. She was also the first American female war photojournalist. Taken in 1929, this photograph exemplifies her signature ability to transform industrial might into art. The guest inherited this photograph from her father. Its subject captures one of the steel-making processes, epitomizing the industrial age.
Well, it's one process of about 15 or 20 that she made for my dad that show from the very beginning where they charge the blast furnace all the way through to the ingots that are being rolled on the ingot floor.
There is a strong contrast between shadows and highlights, accentuated by the glow of molten steel. The rich blacks, deep grays, and stark whites enhance the sense of movement, heat, and industry. A black ruled border, a signature element of Margaret Bourke White's style, frames the image. Additionally, the cream-colored double-weight paper further authenticates the photograph. Given the high collectability of Margaret's work and the provenance of this piece, it is estimated to be worth.
I would estimate this picture at $4,000 to $6,000.
The one print?
The one photograph.
But there's a whole series of them in my brother's attic or basement.
There's something magical about old circus photographs, the way they capture moments of awe, mystery, and excitement from a world long past. On display is a collection of photographs that the guest has meticulously gathered in several years.
Well, I've acquired them over about a 15-year period. The autographed picture of P.T. Barnum was my first one.
One standout piece in this collection is a photograph of P.T. Barnum, which is also autographed by him. P.T. Barnum was an American showman, businessman, and entertainer, best known for promoting celebrated hoaxes. At the base of this particular photograph, we can see the signature of its photographer, Charles Eisenman. Charles Eisenman was a renowned New York photographer of the late 1880s, known for his work in the Bowery district. Most of the photographs in this collection were taken by Eisenman, including the portraits of the tattooed man and the bearded lady. Interestingly, nearly all of these photographs are the same size and are classified as cabinet card photographs, dating back to the late 19th century. What makes this collection even more fascinating and valuable is the presence of performers' signatures on the backs of several photographs. Additionally, the appraiser noted some smaller photographs in the collection, known as calling cards, and captured in them are some performers from that era.
And what I discovered in doing some research about ladies in the circus who had this sort of soft and fuzzy hair is they were known as the Circassian women.
With over 100 photographs of historical significance to American theater history, this collection is estimated to be worth.
I would estimate them at $10,000 to $15,000.
Oh, now I'm shaking.
What we have on display is a photograph taken by Van der Zee in 1934. Van der Zee was an American photographer best known for his portraits of black New Yorkers. The subject of this vintage photograph is Father Divine, also known as Reverend M.J. Divine. Divine was an American spiritual leader from 1907 until his death in 1965. He proclaimed himself to be God and led a religious movement that emphasized communal living, racial integration, celibacy, and economic self-sufficiency. At the bottom of the photograph, there is an inscription that helps identify its subject. Accompanying this photograph is a buck featuring the original portrait on its frontispiece. The photograph of Father Divine that the guest brought in isn't as pristine as the one in the buck, but that doesn't significantly affect its value.
The original portrait, and then the highlight of the cloud, the text, that adds a lot to the photographic image.
It is very rare to come across a Van der Zee photograph of this size, making this piece even more valuable. According to the appraiser, if this photograph by Van der Zee were to come up at auction, it would command a price of
Be in the area of $2,000 to $3,000.
For real? Oh,
Yeah.
snap. Wow, thanks a lot. That's awesome.
Presented is a striking orotone portrait, where light and depth blend seamlessly on glass, creating a luminous, almost lifelike golden glow. The guest came to the show with this Edward Curtis orotone that he bought at a sale years ago. Edward Curtis was an American photographer and ethnologist whose work focused on the American West and on Native American people. In 1899, Curtis was appointed as the official photographer for the Harriman, Alaska expedition, a scientific journey that documented the region's landscapes, wildlife, and indigenous communities. His work from this expedition helped establish his reputation and fueled his lifelong mission to preserve Native American heritage through photography. According to the appraiser, this picture is a 1906 orotone, measuring about 14 by 11 inches that depicts Teddy Roosevelt in a dignified pose. Teddy Roosevelt was the 26th President of the United States of America, serving from 1901 to 1909.
Curtis had actually photographed Roosevelt and his children in New York in 1904. And it was around that time that Curtis had the idea of photographing Native American people west of the Mississippi.
This portrait seems to capture more than just an image, but the very essence of its subject. An auction estimate for this portrait, given that it is in its original frame but has a chip, would be valued at.
Auction estimate would be in the $10,000 to $15,000 price range.
Oh my, no, I didn't have any clue. Wow.
Photographs have a way of unlocking memories, each one holding a story waiting to be told. The guest brought photographs of her husband, a photograph of Arthur Feelig at work, and a buck signed by the notable photographer Arthur Feelig. Arthur Feelig, known by his pseudonym Ouija, was a photographer and photojournalist, known for his stark black and white street photography in New York City. Feelig, a self-taught photographer with no formal training, was said to have developed his photographs in a makeshift darkroom in the trunk of his car. Most of his notable photographs were taken with very basic press photographers and methods of his era. According to the appraiser, these photographs are from the 1950s, each with a different subject matter.
You also brought in some pictures of Ouija at work.
That picture was taken during this sitting, and it was taken by Frances Avery, which was Ouija's girlfriend at the time. On the right side of that photo is Bobby's mother, Sophie, and Arthur taking the picture.
At first glance, the photographs captivate with their originality, but closer inspection raises questions about their authenticity.
In terms of the pictures, the way they're framed and presented, we don't see Ouija's signature.
Furthermore, the publication titled Ouija's Secret is remarkably signed by him.
Ouija's signature, and then later on in the publication are the images of Bobby reproduced. This one is reproduced in the publication. This one is a variant.
This publication ultimately settled the questions about these photographs' authenticity, confirming they were indeed by Ouija. At auction, given the provenance of this publication, Ouija's Secret, it would command a significant price of.
Auction, this would be estimated in the $150 to $200 price range.
Finally, a pair of images taken by Ouija himself, presented at auction, would command a significant price of.
My auction estimate would be in the $1,500 to $2,500 price range.
God, that's great.
Displayed with deep reverence, this piece reflects a nation's mourning during a pivotal moment in history. The guest brought in an 1865 Abraham Lincoln mourning parade banner. Abraham Lincoln was the 16th President of the United States, serving from 1861 until his assassination in 1865. Lincoln, a self-educated man of humble beginnings, rose to prominence as a lawyer, Whig Party leader, Illinois state legislator, and U.S. representative. Through unwavering leadership during the American Civil War, he preserved the Union and upheld the Constitution. According to The Appraiser, this banner was used during the mourning period following Lincoln's assassination, a solemn artifact reflecting the nation's grief.
Smallest town to the biggest city, there were demonstrations, parades of mourning.
What makes this banner particularly fascinating is the parade detail at the top, symbolizing public tribute.
That this could have been used in a nighttime march, and to see this great shaft, and I mean, I love the shaft. The patina, the color,
the feel of it
it's got great feeling to it. To see this in this condition is really amazing.
The back carries an even more compelling message: our country shall be one country. In the realm of political collectibles, Lincoln-related artifacts are among the most coveted, significantly enhancing this banner's historical value.
The Lincoln mourning items are a little bit a step down in terms of value than the campaign items. This, on the other hand, is such a special thing with the original shaft, the torch, and the two-sided sign.
At auction, with its rich provenance, this piece would command an impressive value of
between $15,000 and $25,000.
Oh my goodness. Well,
early aviation photos capture the bold moments of humanity's first flights. This guest brought in these early aviation photos collection that originally belonged to her friend.
He used to deliver newspapers for the Wright brothers, and he also used to have his bicycles worked on from the Wright brothers because they had a bicycle shop in Dayton.
Okay.
The history of aviation spans over 2 millennia, from the earliest innovations like kites and attempts at tower jumping to supersonic and hypersonic flight in powered, heavier-than-air jet aircrafts. According to The Appraiser, among the 40 collections, he selected 3 photographs that illustrate very well why the collection is important. The first one among the 3 depicts the landing of the first airplane to cross the English Channel in a flight from France, where it landed in Dover, England.
The pilot was a very famous French pilot named Blériot. His plane was very fragile. It occasionally crashed. The plane that made the first crossing was transferred from the landing strip to Selfridge's department store in London, where it remained on display for a number of years.
The second photo depicts the crashing of the Blériot airplane. The appraiser pointed out the plane was used up until about World War I. The third photograph is of the Wright brothers plane in foreground and another plane modeled after the Wright brothers behind it. The Wright brothers, Orville Wright and Wilbur Wright, were American aviation pioneers, generally credited with inventing, building, and flying the world's first successful plane. Many of the striking photographs in this collection were captured by the agency, each one telling a unique story through its lens. On the back of one of the photographs, a stamp is revealed, bearing the name Rapid, along with a clear warning: reproduction is prohibited.
And it gives the address on the Rue Montmartre in Paris.
Oh, wow.
At auction, the first photograph of the Blériot plane landing in Dover would be valued at,
I would estimate, would bring between $1,500 and $3,500 at auction.
Just that one picture?
Just that one alone.
The second photograph would command a substantial price of
between $1,000 and $1,500 at auction.
The third photograph of the Wright brothers would be valued at
also between $1,500 and $2,500.
If the entire collection were brought to auction, it would command a significant price of
the estimate would be between $7,000 and $10,000.
Wow. That's pretty good.
This photograph, given as a thoughtful gift, captures a moment in time that holds both personal and historical significance. This photograph is signed by the world-renowned Ansel Adams. Ansel Adams was an American landscape photographer and environmentalist known for his black and white images of the American West. Ansel helped found Group F/64, an association of photographers like Edward Weston, Willard Van Dyke, and many others who advocate for pure photography, which favored sharp focus and the use of full tonal range of photography. According to The Appraiser, this photograph is of the monolith face of Half Dome and the Merced River.
This photograph was taken in 1938.
Okay.
Itself was probably made in the late 60s to the mid 70s.
Notable features of this photograph include its 8 by 10 inch size and the fact that it was produced as a special edition for sale in Yosemite Valley exclusively for visitors. This photograph also bears his signature, a rare and sought-after mark of authenticity.
Most of these prints were done by assistants, and they were not typically signed by Ansel Adams. So while this is a fairly common occurrence insofar as it was sold through the gift shop, it's very uncommon to have a signature.
In a gallery, given the excellent condition of this photograph, it would command a significant price of
between $4,000 and $6,000.
That's amazing. I had no idea that it would have been.
What stories have you heard about the iconic prints of Ansel Adams? This beautiful Ansel print was given to the guest by his friend. Ansel Adams was an American landscape photographer and environmentalist known for his black and white images of the American West. He developed his early photographic work as a member of the Sierra Club. His early photos showed careful composition and sensitivity to tonal balance. This photograph we have here depicts the picture of Yosemite Valley in California, in Yosemite National Park.
Ansel Adams made many trips to Yosemite because he fell in love with the natural landscape and found that that was going to be the subject matter of his photography.
According to the appraisal, Yosemite was one of those places that he recognized as a fragile, majestic, and beautiful wilderness. This stunning photograph is a 1936, known as Valley View, capturing the essence of nature's grandeur.
So the negative was generated in Adams's early career before he became an environmentalist and a public figure.
One key feature of this photograph is the hand-stamped mount on the back, reading special editions of fine prints.
He decides that he's going to work with a team of darkroom technicians. He himself is no longer going to do a lot of the printing and make what he referred to as open-ended editions.
According to the appraiser, this special edition was introduced around 1958. Another remarkable aspect of this print is that it is signed by Adams himself in the lower right corner, enhancing its provenance. Given the signature on this print, at auction it would command a substantial price of
between $2,000 and $3,500.
Wow.
Camera Work was a pioneering magazine that redefined photography as an art form. The guest arrived with a treasured collection of Camera Work magazines, a gift from his mother many years ago. Camera Work is considered to be one of the most influential photography publications of the early 20th century, founded by Alfred Stieglitz. Alfred Stieglitz, a visionary photographer and modern art pioneer, founded Camera Work to elevate photography to the realm of fine art. Stieglitz gained widespread acclaim for his pioneering work in photography and his influential magazine articles, advocating for photography as a legitimate form of art. In 1893, he became co-editor of American Amateur Photography. The first issue of this magazine, when opened, reveals a stunning, warm-toned photogravure.
Stieglitz had actually been trained in the photogravure process because when he told his father in the 1890s that he wanted to be a fine art photographer, his father was so horrified that he said, "You have to develop a skill. You need a trade."
Photogravure is a high-quality photographic printing process used to create finely detailed prints from photographs. According to the appraiser, Camera Work was available by subscription, costing $6 per year.
And each year, 3 or 4 different issues would be published, and those issues would reflect works by many different photographers.
One special print featured in Camera Work was championed by Clarence Wright, reproduced on delicate Japan tissue paper.
One of the reasons that Camera Work is so prized is the delicacy of these very beautiful reproductions.
The last issue of Camera Work showcased a reproduction of Edward Steichen's photograph The Pond.
The original photograph recently sold at auction for over $3 million.
Wow.
At auction, considering the historical value and provenance of this Camera Work collection, it would be valued at
Estimate on it, my estimate would be $60,000 to $90,000.
Thank you. You made my day as well.
This photograph captures the grandeur and architectural elegance of an iconic bridge. The guest brought in a photograph gifted to his aunt by Margaret Burke White. Margaret Burke White, an acclaimed American photographer and documentarian, was a trailblazer in her field. She also became the first American female war journalist and famously photographed the Fort Peck Dam, which graced the cover of Life magazine's debut issue. This particular photograph portrays the George Washington Bridge during its construction. The appraiser noted that Margaret's images reflect a refined and artistic vision, deeply influenced by the elegance of modernist aesthetics.
That drew on a modernist aesthetic, an artistic aesthetic, but also an appreciation for the machine.
This image is a vintage photograph, finalized and printed in her signature style from 1933.
And if we look at the edges, we see that they have this black border. This is characteristic of what Burke White elected in her exhibition prints.
Notably, the photograph bears Margaret's pencil signature, confirming it as a final exhibition print. Given the artist's provenance, at auction, this remarkable photograph would command a value of...
An estimate would be $20,000 to $30,000.
Wow. That's amazing. I wouldn't have had any idea that it was worth that.
This photograph captures a legendary baseball player during one of his final public appearances, showcasing the profound impact of his career. The guest brought in a remarkable photograph he acquired at an auction in Phoenix, Arizona, featuring none other than Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth, an iconic figure in American professional baseball, played in the major leagues for 22 seasons from 1914 to 1935. Widely regarded as one of the greatest sports heroes in American culture, Ruth is celebrated as the greatest player of all time by many. According to the appraiser, this photograph is from June 13, 1948.
It's Babe's farewell speech to the fans at Yankee Stadium. There's a very famous image by a photographer named Nat Fine, taken from behind.
Over the years, many photographs of him have surfaced, but this one stands out, captured from a unique angle that carries a deeply poignant perspective. Baseball memorabilia remains highly collectible and sought after these days.
And this is a vintage image, a vintage wire photo. It's a beautiful, beautiful photograph. $5.
At auction, a photograph like this would be valued at...
A photograph like this would bring at least $300 to $400.
Wow.
So what a great, great find.
That was. I'm glad I kept it.
This archive photograph, preserved for decades, captures a pivotal moment in history, offering us a unique window into the past. The guest brought in archive photographs of Jesse James and his family.
And his brother, Frank. My mother, she was on the set, filming of the movie. Jesse James got pictures that she took as a 16-year-old girl. So this is a young girl's collection family photo album.
Jesse James was a notorious American outlaw, famous for his involvement in bank and train robberies, as well as his role as a guerrilla fighter and leader of the infamous James Younger Gang. Over time, Jesse James became a legendary figure in American folklore, romanticized as a rebellious hero who fought against perceived injustices. His violent career, however, ended in 1882, when he was betrayed and shot in the back by a member of his own gang. In addition to this, the guest also brought in some original photographs of bank robbers from the infamous Northfield, Minnesota robbery.
And Quantrill's gorillas, some originals, just passed down through the families through many, many years.
The first photograph is different from the others we have here, as it shows Jesse James at just 14 years old, offering a rare glimpse into his youth.
Jesse James was born in 1847, so the date of this portrait would be around 1861. We look at the tonality of this photograph and its presentation on a cabinet card. The photograph itself is a silver print.
According to the appraiser, this photographic technique, the production of the photograph, can be dated to around 1861. These original Count de Visite-sized photographs, dating back to 1876, capture a pivotal moment in history, the year of the daring Northfield bank robbery. Additionally, there's a photograph that's associated with the infamous Quantrill robbery gang.
Jesse James rode with Quantrill's gorillas. In fact, my great-grandmother's middle name was Quantrill. She was Fanny Quantrill Samuels, which Dr. Samuels married Jesse's mother.
So the family association, the association with some of the most notorious figures of the 19th century.
If these collections were to surface at auction, given their historical context, their value would undoubtedly soar.
Would be $15,000 to $25,000. Thank you so much for bringing it in.
Thank you so much.
How does this photograph offer a unique glimpse into the past? The guest brought in a photograph that was bought at a local auction.
She was advertised as a vampire.
Vampire? Okay.
They said when they tried to put her photo on the auction brochure, she kept double exposing.
According to the appraiser, this photograph has a recent history of auction records of almost $3,000. Titled Coloma, this photograph invites us to step into a moment frozen in time, offering a glimpse of something both intimate and profound.
This much of Coloma, from about here up, was illustrated on the dust jacket of a book called I Married Wyatt Earp by Josephine Marcus Earp.
According to the appraiser, this picture has been assumed to be a picture of Josie Earp. Josie Earp was the common-law wife of Wyatt Earp, a famed Old West lawman and gambler. Another intriguing detail in this photograph is the inscription reading PN Company, followed by a copyright date of 1914, adding an extra layer of authenticity and historical value. The Pastime Novelty Company was a business that operated in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, primarily known for producing novelty items. If this photograph were to be valued at auction, it would be valued at...
It's about a $150 photograph, so you still did all right.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing it in. It's a great story.
Hang her right back on the wall.